actually, I'm pretty smart and credible. And this is a guy that is called the politician destroyer. So he said, he actually came around a big time and said, look, there could be something in this. And that's what we're saying is that, from day one, we are the party that is the voice of the people. Why? Because we are making a stand to say the things that people are prepared to put under the covers, under the rock, and not deal with. And we are bringing them to light. And we are standing for addressing these issues that people who are not working for the New Zealand people wish to hide. And we are revealing them, we're dealing with them, and we will overcome them and challenge them once we become part of the House of Representatives.
Now, let's think about this. I had two separate realizations before you came on the scene. One was that there's so much racial division and people at each other's throats with Black Lives Matter and all of this kind of thing, that to actually have some kind of political solution would not be able to happen without the existence of, what was his name? Billy T. James, right? And then it would not be able to happen without the existence of Bob Marley. And then a musician who's Māori called Billy T came along, right? It's synchronicity, and I believe that you're seeing the power of synchronicity right now as people are sharing links around and giving likes, giving comments, giving donations, and things of that nature. The old saying goes that nothing can stop an idea whose time has come.
Absolutely, and no one can stop a people's movement that's genuine and that is organic and real. Nothing can do that. No amount of money can buy it and make it happen. No amount of money can sway the people. If the message is right, if it is from the grassroots up, and if it is genuine and if it is right, it will go far. And this is what the media are really struggling with. They can't believe that a party that's coming up 6 weeks old has done what we've done. I mean, you were there the other day at our launch. I mean, this is serious stuff, and the media was saying is that it was and I crack up when I say this, but they were saying that it was like a President Trump rally, full of patriotic New Zealanders that wanted to defend our country, get our economy back on track, get people taken care of, repair our economy, just all those sorts of things, just so important. And what we've done in such a short time has just been incredible, and the media really don't know what to do with it. But one thing that we've got to say is that we've cracked through into the mainstream media. We're getting requests for meetings, for TV, all over the place, mainstream. But the big thing today, of course, and yesterday, is that the Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern has now had to confront us now. She's now mentioning me and NZPP in Advance New Zealand in her press conferences. She knows
if I may, if I was her political advisor, I wouldn't have instructed her to do that. I would have advised her to ignore until the very election. Never give Billy TK any airtime. Never mention his name. Never talk to him. That kind of thing. And at the moment, that's basically what they're doing the opposite of. Indeed, the media. That's what if I was trying to destroy this country and keep it under the auspices of Agenda 21 as the media, I would instruct them not to do any interviews with you, that kind of thing, if that was their objective. However, as we have seen, there are a few articles here, and Jamie Lee Ross joins party with New Zealand Public Party. That's out of Radio New Zealand. We have the newsroom as well. Jamie Lee Ross hitches wagon to conspiracy theorists, and there were a number of other articles as well from various news sources around the country. And what they are doing is they are shooting themselves in the foot. The second that they mention your name, there's a percentage of people who won't believe what they say and will go and investigate for themselves. And the second that they start investigating Billy TK, ladies and gentlemen, we've got them. That's if that's if they have eyes to see and ears to hear.
Yeah, that's correct. So as I've said from my little farm from day one, stay credible, stay calm, stay factual and on solid ground, because most of the time when these journos say that we're a conspiracy theory party, it's only because they're uninformed and uneducated as to what the topics mean. That they are real programs that we're very, very concerned with. There are real questions that need to be asked and answered, and they're simply uneducated. You do get a minority of them that are complicit with the government's narrative. They know exactly that we're here to challenge that, and so they're going to go for you. But what we always say, and what I always bring the journalists back in media interviews to, is look, just go to www.un.org and start your research of these programs, and then once you've looked on the website, actually find the Agenda 21 booklet, read it, but read it with your eyes open, with a clear understanding that the terminology that they're using is not what it represents to be, because what you're going to see is buzzwords like sustainability, sustainable social equity, green zones, special designated areas, SDGs, sustainable development goals, and they all sound very fine in a superficial glance, but when you understand what they mean, you can break out all those words and put the word control in there, and you can put the phrase controlled centralized unit through the UN, and we are seeing right now all those types of policies that are coming through council and from central government that are simply designed to deliver these foreign programs that have no right to be here without public consent, and the politicians in Parliament aren't speaking up about it. They're not dealing with it. They're not being honest about it, and that's what we need. We need integrity, transparency, accountability for this out of control government. And I agree with you, Vinny. These. They are playing right into our hands that way. Jacinda Ardern has now been cornered on a couple of occasions and having to respond to Billy Te Kahika of the New Zealand Public Party and Advanced New Zealand Alliance, and you should have seen the body language on her and her facial expressions during it. She was simply uncomfortable, rattled, and surprised by the questioning from the media that normally don't ask any sort of type of the hard questions that need to be asked of the Prime Minister. But that just proves that if there is such uncomfort there, and you said it yourself the other week, when you ask somebody a question, if they gulp or take a breath or they look a bit strange before they answer it, you know that something's up, because they should be able to answer it straight up if they're honest and being genuine.
Yeah, and my problem at the moment conducting these interviews with you is that over the last maybe 4 or 5 interviews, I don't know how many we've done so far, they just sort of all seem to blend together, is that I feel that as somebody who's actually been involved with almost every branch of activism in New Zealand and internationally through my international radio show for over 10 years, I have run out of questions for you, Billy. I have zero suspicions left. Do you have any idea how many people there are on this planet that I can say that about? There actually isn't anyone who I have zero suspicions about. Even myself, even my wife doesn't qualify.
Oh, look, I mean, my wife remains very suspicious and skeptical of me all the time, and keeps me humble, and is always golly, I think that's why God made a woman, really, to help us men stay true and honest, and my wife certainly does that. But look, I'm extremely and remain extremely surprised to be here. I'm very humbled by it, to have not only hundreds, not only thousands, not only tens of thousands, but now hundreds of thousands of people that have come in behind the movement, that have also engaged with our message, and it's simply amazing. And no, I am just an ordinary Kiwi. There is nothing. I actually came up with a little phrase about myself today. I'm as ordinary as fish and chips, and I like that. I'm going to use it because that's what I am. I'm a South Auckland bred man. I was born in Palmerston North. I live on a farm up Northland, and I work hard for my family, my community, and to help people. That's all I am, and that's what I am. But I am smart, and I'm smart enough to get into government and to fix the zoo that's down there.
Well, some would argue that you don't necessarily have to be that smart to get into government. You simply have to be corrupt and do what you're told by the people who give you large quantities of money. Now, the one remaining suspicion I and maybe the listeners have as well is the involvement of Jamie Lee Ross. Now, just before we get into that, I want to give you my first impressions. It brought tears to my eyes several times during the events on Sunday with both your speeches and Jamie Lee Ross, because I felt a feeling in my heart of warmth that I hadn't actually felt for over a decade. It was hope. There was a real, tangible, you can reach out and touch it, hope That is what is going to light this fire that will burn this government down, ladies and gentlemen. It is your hope, it is your devotion, it is your strength, it is your honour that will make the public turn against their previous and former masters. Now, on the Jamie side of it, I recall listening to his whistleblower tape with what was his name, Simon Bridges, and by the way, I believe that you should never burn bridges, but in his case we should make an exception. The thing that I noticed about it was the open and candid conversation about selling a seat of the National Party to a member of the Chinese Communist Party for $100,000, and then immediately afterwards Jamie Lee Ross has all these scandals pop up and this kind of thing. My immediate instinct was that this guy was telling the truth and they're attempting to bury him and muddy the waters so that the truth cannot get out about how corrupt and how financed by the Chinese Communist Party both sides of the house are at this point.
Oh yeah, exactly. Look, it was probably one of the most emotional things that I've been involved with in terms of a large people event the other day on Sunday. I've been on the stage many times performing, and I've never walked out on the stage and felt my heart just virtually explode with warmth, with happiness, with people's projected aroha up on stage to me, and it did. It very much touched me as well, and I really had to pull myself together and then talking about the situation of our people in Te Tai Tokerau with housing, with living in tree huts and in bush huts and that with their families, that just about the Māori readers have a tangi reader, have a cry, because these are real things. They mean everything to us, and they are emotional things. And the secret is that now what we have to do is realise that we all want the same thing, regardless of all the trolls out there that think whatever they want to think of me. Let's just get rid of that nonsense and fight to get into Parliament to change things. Look, at the end of the day, we really don't want just to scrape over any sort of 5% threshold. We want 15-20% of the vote minimum, and we're going to go for it hard. We believe that we're going to have a great chance to do that. We would like to be the control partner as the government, and I believe we can do it. And I just saw a really good question here, which is awesome, that came up in the feed just now, is from Rose, asking how would we, once we get in there, get us out of the United Nations agreements, and how would that be done? Well, just immediately you sign yourself out of it. We are a sovereign country here. We don't answer to the United Nations. We don't answer to the Chinese Communist Party. We don't answer to anyone. We answer to ourselves and our country, and we just sign ourselves off it. That's not to say that we will not participate in any UN things. I think some of the things that they might do might be proven okay to be involved with, and part of our relationship with other countries out there. We need to support good and proven worthy, incredible things. But we do not want to be a part of Agenda 21 Sustainable Development, and we do not want to be part of the end game of Agenda 2030 of the United Nations programs. Why? Because it represents the complete destruction of our beautiful country that we live in, and the freedoms that we used to enjoy. Because those freedoms that we used to enjoy aren't here today. They're not here today.
Yes, and if you look at, indeed, you've kind of hit the nail on the head, saying that if you replace every single part of UN Agenda 21 with control, people would like more specifics on that, i.e. The control of your water by international corporations, the control of your housing by international corporations, the control of your air quality, the control of your living standards, your situations, the control of your rivers, the control of anything and everything that exists, ladies and gentlemen, will be directly administered and controlled by non-governmental organizations, private corporations, all centrally controlled by the United Nations, which you don't have a say in. That is global slavery. That is global tyranny, ladies and gentlemen. Be aware of it, and only once the herd is aware, at around about 6%, then the rest of the herd becomes aware of the threat, the lion in the grass.
Yeah, absolutely. So the world is looking at New Zealand and what we're going to do about this. The world knows all of the major freedom-fighting, democracy-fighting, pro-democracy, freedom-fighting groups. They're all looking at us all around the world, from all across Europe and the United States. We've even got people in Africa and in Asia watching us, and this is serious. The world is looking at to see whether New Zealand is going to have the fortitude to stand up against this, to wake up to it, to confront it, because many people are scared, Vinny, about even believing that this stuff is real. I mean, so what we do is always to say, look at the behaviour of the government. Right now, this government is on the west coast of the South Island confiscating farmland owned by farmers that has wetlands on it. They are confiscating this land. They are walking onto privately owned land and confiscating it off the farmers. Well, I'm sorry, that's just not good enough. We've had to endure that as Māori ourselves, and we're not going to put up with it again in the modern era. We're not going to do that. And these people that are reaching out to me, they are intergenerational farmers, most of them, and they've been there forever. And it's just disgusting that they feel that as a government they've got the jurisdiction to walk onto people's land and say, sorry guys, we're going to confiscate that 20 acres or 30 acres or whatever it is of your wetland, and you don't have anything to say about it. Or they'll say, and by the way, when we take that land, you've got to put up a very expensive fence line around it to protect that area that's going to be a reserve, because we don't want your cattle on our land. Now, our land, which was their land, and now saying that their cattle can't go in it. Now, that's unbelievable. This is democracy destruction at its very clearest example of, and we just cannot stand for this. And then not only that, the way that the COVID-19 quarantine has been managed by the military, it's a complete debacle. It's disgusting that you're having free New Zealanders and Kiwis flying into our country. They arrive at the airport. They're treated like hostile people arriving. There is no welcome home to Aotearoa, New Zealand for them. They're getting told that they need to be quarantined. They're getting told that they're going to go to Auckland, and then they get bussed down to Hamilton without being told that until they get on the bus. This is not Soviet Russia. This is not North Korea. This is free and democratic, meant to be New Zealand, and we just cannot stand for that. And yesterday, Vinny, as you would have heard, is that one of the themes of my questioning from the media to me was, did I tell this whānau in Hamilton to try and escape custody down there? Well, no, of course not. We would never do that. But the thing is that, what we're dealing with here are distressed people. They're locked up. No one has explained their rights to them. There is no point of contact for them to go to get well-informed responses. There are no people treating them with respect and the courtesy that every New Zealander should expect as a citizen of this country. And at the end of the day, these people who were completely distressed, proven to be negative of COVID-19, were held against their will. They were held against their will. They weren't allowed to go and see the body of their father that was about to be put on the ground. And I just think that's contemptible. I really do. I think it's disgusting. It's illogical. But all it is that we know it is, that's in preparation to condition us as a people to become a herd that they control, and we won't stand for it.
That's right. We're not here to condition you, ladies and gentlemen. We're here to shampoo you. Okay? Get rid of the brainwashing to a large degree is the problem that we have. Now, these shows that we're doing here, these are an hour in length. They might be difficult for people to watch the whole way through, and so we need you, the listeners, to help us out a little bit. If there's a section within this that you hear Billy talking about something or me saying a point or something of that nature, you can actually write out the time as it displays on the show, and then that will turn automatically into a link on the YouTube page and the comment section, and you can post those links to things and on Facebook and what have you, so that if people don't want to listen to the whole thing, but if they have a specific question about one particular part or whatever, you can in fact share sections of the show just by right clicking if you're on a computer, going copying your video URL at the current time, or doing a comment and putting in the actual time code to the sections you wish people people to go to, because I know that there are a lot of suspicious people out there. But if you go back and you watch all the TK Tuesday episodes, pretty much, if you are not convinced at this point, like I am, you will never be convinced, and you are not worth our time.
Wow, awesome, Vinny. No, exactly right. I'm just reading some of the feedback that's coming here. There's just some fantastic questions coming up in the feedback, and I've got to say to the people out there watching this, that I'm really impressed with you. I really, really am. There are some absolutely incredible, reflective and critical thinking people that are watching this. And if you cast your mind way back when we first started these broadcasts, Vinny, the amount of questions and fear and uncertainty of people with me and trolls and that. I haven't seen one troll today. I've been looking for it, because I think what's happening is that people have actually realised, Billy is what he is. But there's some good things I want to address that have come up here, and one of them is that the secret with our movement, with this party's policies, is that we're not a one-trick pony. We've got some outstanding policies coming out around housing, around economics, around health. We've got some incredible people that are busy like little ferrets writing all these policies up. We've got doctors of the economy that we're working with. We've got people like Carl Peterson down in the Hawke's Bay that's working on some fantastic ideas. And we are not a one-trick pony. But number one, the trick is that we've got to protect our democracy and understand that that has been destroyed radically. And that is a policy. Sean Plunkett said, well, it's not a policy. Well, it is actually, because that's one of the very key things that we're seeing being destroyed. So our policy is we are going to reinstate it. We are going to get rid of the COVID-19 health response bill. We're going to repeal it. And we do need to fix our economy and get our business sector up and running, because without that, we're not going to pay this huge debt down. It just isn't going to happen that way. And the disturbing thing is that this government is so arrogant that they think they can get away just 2 weeks out from the election to reveal its policies on people then. And that's just not good enough.
My theory is that what they'll do is they will test the public with polling privately, and then once they have had a look at all the other parties and what seems to be popular with all of their policies, they'll steal all of them in the last 2 weeks in the hopes that will get them enough votes to get them over the line. That's what I'd do if I was a cynical SOB.
Look, I just saw an excellent question there. Is it a crime against humanity to let somebody die alone? I think it is. I think it's disgusting how they had rules for one group of people and rules for another group of people. And one of the things I do despise about the way this crisis has been managed is that they've allowed people to die alone. And I think it's a horrific part of this whole thing. And it really is. The whole thing from A to Z is just one diabolical mess in the way that it's managed, without humanity in the decision-making process, but most importantly, without sensible, factual, independent, verifiable medical basis for why these decisions are being made like that. You can't find it. Yesterday I was talking to the journalist who said, do you believe COVID-19 exists? I said, yes, I do. I do believe it does exist. But the question is that we need to ask is, we need to look at the consequences of the arrival of COVID-19 and what it means to us since its arrival, in the form of destruction to our economy, our rights and freedoms, and our national sovereignty. Because ultimately, when you really examine the final analysis, we are part of a narrative which says that COVID-19 is this threat. The powers that be are pushing it, and they're expecting New Zealand to toe the line, and that's an issue of independence. And we need to look at it through that lens to understand what we're dealing with. And I do, Sheree, thank you for your question just then, because I believe there is no humanity in this government. They are a government of death, and we've got to get them out.
Now, a lot of people have been doing something that I used to do when I didn't know the correct approach. When it comes to the trolls, the naysayers, and things of that nature, ladies and gentlemen, you're dealing with, according to Psychology Today, either a sadist, a narcissist, or a psychopath. Now, the reason why they troll is to get attention. okay? They don't get enough attention, and they need your attention in order to survive, whether it be negative attention, positive attention, doesn't matter. That's the only thing that they want. And so my advice is, whenever you see any of these people doing any of these criticisms or swearing and being generally nasty, give them zero attention. Do not reply, do not like, do not do angry face or anything like that. Make them feel like every conspiracy theorist in this country has felt for the last decade, completely alone, like nobody listens to them. It's our turn.
Yeah, well, it's funny you should say that, because the other day after the main meeting on Sunday at the rally, I got to spend some alone time with quite a number of people. When I say alone time, there's still 200 of us, if you remember Vinny, on the side there, and just meeting some of the people, male and female, that would just burst into tears and give me a big hug, because they now know they're not alone, they're not nutty, they have done the research and know that the things that we're talking about are real. They're not conspiracy, they are real, they're factual, there is a foundation to our concerns, and that there is a party like this that's prepared to air those concerns and shed light on them. And that's really important to all the people out there that feel marginalised because they're applying critical thinking. They never used to be like that 20 odd years ago, or when I was growing up. If you were a critical thinker, you were esteemed. You were a leader. You were somebody that other people thought, hey, look, I want to be like that. But what it has been over a period of time is a slow but sure campaign to marginalise and discredit people that ask really, really sane questions as to why are we going in this direction? How come are we going in this direction? Who are the people calling the shots here? These are all fair questions, and that was one of the things that I said to Sean yesterday, and I wore him down enough for him to say, to realise, actually, these are questions that need to be asked and answered.
Now, when one second here, I believe it was called it was a Tom Cruise movie called Edge of Tomorrow. Now, the character had something completely unbelievable to him happen. He would die every day and come back to life and be able to remember everything that happened to him. And the most difficulty he had with getting his job done was trying to convince people that what he was telling was the truth, that he wasn't some kind of crazy person. And after hundreds of times dying and coming back, he used this phrase: "When I first open my mouth, what I say is going to sound ridiculous, but the longer I keep talking, the more rational it's going to appear."
Exactly, and I think what we need to do is, immediately when we say something, is be prepared to back it up. That's number one. Provide the sources, provide the commentary. When I was on TL News with Moana yesterday afternoon at lunchtime, one of the things she was saying, look, I've got a law degree, these other academics have studied it, why should we believe that there's anything wrong with Agenda 21 and 2030? Well, sorry, Moana, you may have that, but I'm a trained researcher as well. And I've got credibility and smarter people than me and Moana and looked into this issue and looking into it. They're deeply concerned by Agenda 21, and they are litigating across the United States, around the world, to protect the people from these agenda, because they're evil, they're not good, and they kill democracy. What astounds me is that these so-called smart academics are failing to realise this. They're failing to look beyond the way that the law might appear, or the statute. But the thing is, with these programs, they're not actually laws, so you don't have to be a bloody lawyer to understand these things. So sorry to all those people like Claudette Hawiti who think they're so smart. They don't know what they're talking about. And what they're doing is, by being complicit with this fake narrative about what these agenda mean, they're not actually doing the research as to what it means from a control point of view. And that's the issue, because when you break down the terminology on these agenda, you see it very, very clearly for what it is. And when you do, that's when the heck was on the back of your neck, stand up and you think, golly jeepers, we've got to stop this, because I do want to be able to grow my own food. I do want to be able to build little homes for my mum or my dad that are getting aged behind my house. Because that's another thing, that I had a family from Tauranga yesterday get in touch with me to say that they were trying to get approval from the council to build a little cottage, one-bedroom cottage at the back of their house for their aged elderly mum to move into. Now, the rigmarole that they've had to go through with council in terms of fees, in terms of costs and compliance, these ideas don't originate here in New Zealand to do that. They are an exact outcome of the fact that Agenda 21 has been incorporated into all of the councils across New Zealand. And what we had last year was the pure fact that that Agenda 2030 and that Agenda 21 are the two agendas that our Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern wants to fully implement in New Zealand. And what's going to happen is, our freedoms are going to be proven to have been lost through the full implementation of these agenda if they have their way with us. And so what this lady said to me yesterday, Vinny, is that they've had to come up with another way of getting their mother sorted out, and it's just disgusting. And she actually rang me up and said, look, can you let people know in your next broadcast that this is what's happening in Tauranga, and that she knew, she's done the research herself. This is a member of the public, and she says she knows exactly that this is a part of the UN agendas, and she's right. It's absolutely right. And we've seen it across New Zealand. And Rosa Corey, as you know, knows exactly which the main super city councils are involved with this, and she's deeply horrified as well.
That's right. Now, a couple of points to make on those is Agenda 21. Basically, if you look into Agenda 21 and you understand it, you will look at the implementation of nearly every law or piece of legislation that has come through the New Zealand Parliament or local council since 1992, almost word for word, is listed in Agenda 21 long before any of that legislation was passed here. It is all compliant with it. We have been under this regime for a very, very long time, for nearly 30 years now at this point, and we're only just finding out about it now when it's almost too late. I say almost because we have one shot, ladies and gentlemen, and one shot is all we need.
Absolutely, and at our massive event last night in Te Awamutu, it was amazing how these people were onto it last night. They were super duper onto it. When I was asking questions like, do you know about this? Do you know about that? All the sea of hands that were going up. People are waking up in massive droves and doing their own study of these programs, and they are. When you read the Agenda 21 handbook, it's like you're reading some sort of horror story. It's like something out of George Orwell's 1984, because they just control every aspect of what we need to survive and live as human beings. But as I say in my live presentations, but not to live in peace and in freedom, but to be completely controlled by these things. And it's even if you don't want to go too far in any which direction, either for or negative this argument, one thing you've got to arrive at is that, do you really want other people telling you what you can do with your kids, what you can do with your land, what you can do with your food and all that? And that's, when you pose questions like that to people, every one of them that I've asked these questions of, have said, of course they don't.
Now, food freedom. Under Agenda 21, essentially, you're going to have non-governmental organisations and corporations that are going to be running every aspect of your life. Now, a lot of people don't grow their own food, but imagine if for a moment that nobody was allowed to grow their own food, and the only people that you could go and purchase food off was massive corporations like Monsanto, or now renamed something else or whatever. That's what happens every time a scam gets exposed. The scammer changes the name of the scam and then keeps scamming. So imagine for a moment that you had no choice of what you had to eat, and if you said the wrong thing, you wouldn't even be allowed to go into the store to purchase any food to eat. Okay, so this is the freedom to grow your own food is the freedom to survive. It is the freedom of life in and of itself. Now, I had my sister during this drought that we've been having in Auckland approach the council about the possibility of installing installing a water tank on her property, and they said categorically no, because Watercare controls all the water here, and they're a private corporation and they're run for profit. So if you've got a tank, ladies and gentlemen, that makes you independent, that makes you free. All of those such actions will no longer be allowed unless we fight back, unless we take back this country. Now, this awakening has happened. In my opinion, there is a possibility that the government made a very, very big mistake when they locked this country down for a month or two. Why? Because people were stuck at home with nothing else to do except research into these quote-unquote conspiracy theories that they never had the time to research into before. And that may have been the very reason why you've woken up, Billy, why many others have woken up, and why we have this movement now. The government gave us the opportunity to learn what they were doing on our own terms.
Well, that's right. That's the flip side to the coin that they probably didn't bank on, that a lot of people have woken up because of the crisis, because of this this lockdown, which gave people the opportunity like me to sit down and really think it through and think, hold on a second, this is all looking a bit rotten. This smells like a dead rat, I'm afraid. And what they didn't plan on is that a massive movement like this, I didn't plan on it, that's for sure, would be born to stand up and fight for our country, to fight for our sovereignty and our freedoms, both as an individual, as a community, and as a nation. And it's just honestly, I fail to understand what they must be thinking about. How does something like this happen? Now, the reason why I just went a bit vague a second is that I just had a message from one of our team members that say that one of our short clips of the rally the other day on Sunday has just clipped over 101,000 views. These are views, so the engagements are much bigger than that. These are views, 101,000. It's one of yours, Vinny, I think it is. And this is like I keep saying, you cannot fabricate this. You can't buy it. It's Kim.com. Sorry, I said that wrong. Kim.com. Didn't mean to say Kim.com. He had all the money in the world and he couldn't get over the line, and that just proves that you can't stop this.
The top party also attempted to do the same thing and failed as well.
Oh, that's right. Now, I spoke to the top party the other week, and okay, I'm going to call it like it is. I wanted to be very polite and not say this, but they've come out in the media against me, so here it goes. So I spoke to the party secretary, a gentleman whose first name is Ray, and basically he asked two questions of me. One, he said to me, "Are you an anti-vaxxer, mate?" I said, "Well, no, I'm not, bro." I said, "I'm pro-choice," and that stomped him and stumped him right there. The next thing he said to me after we were talking about the referenda issue, he said to me, and pay attention, New Zealanders, pay attention. This is the party secretary for the Opportunities Party. He said New Zealanders are too dumb to handle referenda. Just let that sink in a second. This is the Opportunities Party. Who do they work for? And who are the opportunities for that they're exploring? So apparently we are too dumb to handle referenda. So this is the type of arrogancy that we don't need in our government any longer. We've already got it in our government. We don't need more of it with parties like that. And so, this is why this fight right now that we have embarked on is just so important. We need to get rid of people that even think remotely like that. Yes, there are some people in the world that don't think too bright. We know that. Let's be honest about it. But they still need to be asked the question if decisions are going to be made that's going to affect them and their whānau. And the fact that these guys in government right now don't have policies that they're campaigning on and that they've announced just belies the extreme arrogance and contempt that they treat us with. And we just, I'm over it, and everyone's over it, and we need to stand up together against it.
That's right. Now, the term conspiracy theorist was actually created by the CIA in response to the Warren Commission's investigation of the assassination of JFK. This was the Warren Commission who officially, on record, stated that magic was the reason why JFK died the way he did. It was a magic bullet. Yes, some dark sorcerer blessed a bullet, and it was able to course correct while it was inside his body as he was shot. what. Okay, this is the birth of the term conspiracy theorist, and it was declassified a few years ago that the CIA actually said to the Warren Commission and a lot of the news media around the world that they need to call anybody who questions the findings of the Warren Commission and the JFK assassination conspiracy theorists in order to discredit them. Now, the technical definition of a conspiracy is two or more people hurting somebody else without that person knowing it was them. Now, my definition of conspiracy is this. A conspiracy theorist is a person who absolutely believes, and you cannot convince them otherwise, that powerful people who have a lot of influence actually use their power to maintain or grow that influence. Conversely, a coincidence theorist is a person who believes that everything happens by sheer coincidence. There's no such thing as corruption, deceit, or backroom deals, and mankind just, quote, got over the desire for world domination. Which one sounds more insane to you, ladies and gentlemen?
Well, there you go. And there's also another definition as well, is that a conspiracy is when a small group of people plan the undermining of a large group of people. And that's one that I like to refer to, and that's the question I ask people at our presentations is, are we going to allow the very few people, this very tiny amount of people, to control our futures of the meaning? No, we're not. And as you say, you know, this media that I'm dealing with right now in this, you know, I'm actually learning to love these interviews that I'm doing, because I just unpick them and unpack them bit by bit by bit to the point that they don't know what to do with it. And as you know, I'm a newbie. It was my first day on the job yesterday for the campaign after the launch on Sunday. And you know what? For a guy off a farm who plays guitar and is a everyday Kiwi, I think I did a very sterling job for my first day. And I don't mean to sound boastful. I'm just giving myself a little pat on the shoulder, because I was able to deal to these journos who think they're so very, very clever. But, you know, you don't have to be smart to defend truth, that's for sure. I mean, you just have to be quick on your feet, let the truth speak for itself, and treat people respectfully in the way that you talk to people. And I think at the end of the day, that's what stands out. I mean, like yesterday, we had a fake Māori man by the name of Matthew Tukaka, and you know, and this man is trying to defend you know, these types of programs that are in the government. Now, you know, the fact that he's Māori and got brown skin has nothing to do with it. He's uninformed. He's complicit to the narrative. He's a part of the problem that we have here of people that are sucking the salve out of the current status quo, because they get paid, right? They're okay. My whānau are all good, and they're just on the gravy train. And these type of people have no business making commentary about things that they know aren't right, but they'll stand there and defend the lies and the narrative. And then you have someone like John Tamahiri, who's got a complete history of selfish behaviour, pretty similar to that of Winston Peters, trying to say that we're a conspiracy theorist group or anything like that. Well, sorry, mate, there is no conspiracy around any of this. We're not conspiracy theorists. We're conspiracy revealers, and we're factual people. And this same John Tamahiri, if you remember, during his mayoral candidacy role, was talking about that we need to vaccinate our babies. So, they always end up betraying by their behaviour and some of the things they say, who they are as people. And when I was asked yesterday by Moana, you know, why Te Tai Tokerau for me as a candidate standing for Parliament, why would I choose Te Tai Tokerau Māori seat as my standing ground? Well, it's very, very simple, really, because the Māori that are in Parliament, i.e. such as Calvin Davis, number 2 on the party list for the Labour, you know, at times Deputy Prime Minister when he gets a chance, or Acting Prime Minister if Winston's not available, and Minister of Tourism, you name it, he's got access to resources, and nothing has changed in our region. Absolutely nothing in the 5 years that I've been up there, in the 2.5 years that this government has been in Parliament, nothing's changed. You know, Labour's done nothing up there. And so what this comes down to is not about race or anything like that, religion or creed or age. It's got everything to do about understanding whether you're there to serve the people or not, and actually earning the money that you get paid to be in Parliament. And none of these politicians seem to keep that in mind. And when you hear these men jumping up and down and talking about the New Zealand Public Party, that's our policies are narrow or anything like that, or they have a problem with me, who cares? Who absolutely cares? It's the New Zealand public movement, and they are the ones pushing this whopper forward, and that's it. That's an absolute unbelievable thing that they're having to cope with and contend with when they look over at us doing this movement. And I'm very, very proud that as an ordinary, hard-working, everyday Kiwi, that I'm going to be standing up in Katai Tokido and pushing the wheelbarrow up there to deliver outcomes, because we're sick of not getting outcomes across New Zealand for all people. Sick of it.
That's right. But the thing that is my main point, especially, I've inspired a lot of people to start their own radio show, to start their own YouTube channels and things of that nature, because that's how things get done. Not by saying, hey, you go do this, you go do that, or we'll take care of it for you. It's, hey, look into this yourself, take personal responsibility for the problem and do something about it. And that is precisely what the NZPP audience have been doing since this movement started. They have been taking personal responsibility for sharing out these links. They've been taking personal responsibility for conversing with people. Now, on that conspiracy theory ideation, I've got another one here, but I probably better not actually show that, because it's got a little bit of swearing in it, and we want to keep this PG-13. Anyone who believes that conspiracy theorists are insane, all of them, then they're completely out of their mind. But anybody believes that no conspiracy theorists are insane, they're completely out of their freaking mind, right? There are crazy people who believe in conspiracies and things of that nature, but not everybody who believes in conspiracies is insane. Far from it, in fact. Now, that's on that one. Now, you said we had $100,000 views on one of the small clips from the party meeting, and I just saw Jacinda's little 16-minute live stream got around about 400,000 views. So that means, ladies and gentlemen, we need to increase, whatever you're doing right now in order to help spread the word of the party, you need to increase at least fourfold how much of an effort you are making. I don't know if about you, Billy, but 15-20% of the population, that's not enough. As far as I'm concerned, this election is about first past the post. We get 51%, or this country is in trouble, because I believe that if what are they called? If the National Party and the Labour Party join forces for the first time in history and rebrand themselves the Communist Party of New Zealand, which is essentially the most accurate title that you could have for them, we are not going to be able to have any effect when we enter Parliament unless we are the majority stakeholders governing alone. Now, that might be a hard ask, that might be a hard task, but the alternative is basically not worth even considering. Now, when people make accusations and that kind of thing, I would like them to produce some evidence for that accusation. For example, Billy's a Māori separatist. Okay, what's your evidence for that? He worked for the Māori King. You mean the Māori King that he worked for 2 months and then resigned because of the nepotism and whatnot? Okay, next question, because you didn't research into it. But and when you're a journalist, when you're an investigative journalist, you don't ask people questions unless you already know the answer. That's how you catch them out in lies, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, Billy's a communist. He went to the Belt and Road Project. Really, the same Belt and Road Project where they didn't sign any deals and then got invited back on an all expenses paid trip and refused. You know, that kind of thing. When you are accusing somebody, ladies and gentlemen, and you disguise it as this whole, oh, I'm just asking questions. We're allowed to ask questions, aren't we? Okay, why haven't you asked, is Billy secretly a reptilian? Is he secretly a Muslim? Has he secretly got his own little pedo island in the Hokianga Harbour? No, you don't ask those questions. Why? Because there's absolutely no evidence of any kind to substantiate any of those claims, and you look like a fool for even asking it. There are such a thing as stupid questions, ladies and gentlemen, believe me. And what was it? Claudette Hoiti, you mentioned her before. I recall she wanted to hire me for a job, helping her with Chatterbox TV a while ago, and I went to have a meeting with her and my co-host at the time, Will Ryan, and we talked about the Obama administration, how he increased the drone strikes and things of that nature, as many people can actually see, as well as the banker bailouts and what have you. He was basically the counterpoint in New Zealand to John Key's scumbaggery, and she said that anybody who is critical of Barack Obama is a racist. Okay. Now, in my opinion, ladies and gentlemen, that is, if you have a conversation with any of these politicians for more than 5 minutes, okay, you will quickly find out how crazy they really are. Okay, we're not dealing with people who have a full six-pack, ladies and gentlemen. They're not making sandwiches with a full loaf of bread. They are not in their right minds. Now, that filters down. Okay, if I told you that the vast majority of people in Parliament are actually mentally ill or have personality disorders, imagine what kind of damage mentally ill and personality disordered people would do to this country. Then have a look at the country and you will see that what I'm telling you is probably true. Now, that is because of cult indoctrination, and I want to applaud Jamie Lee Ross in that interview at Te Ao, saying that I was in a cult, because out of all the possible combinations of words that could have been uttered in response to that question of his former National Party officialdom, I was in a cult was the only and 100% response that I would have heard to convince me that this guy is now on the level. This guy is out of it. And the reason why I say that is because I'll read out my Facebook post here, actually. Oh, we'll see if I've got that. There we are. Okay. Just saw Jamie Lee Ross talking about his National Party days. He said, I was in a cult. Synchronistically, this morning, an old Facebook memory of mine came up about cult indoctrination. Cult indoctrination is simple. 1, repetition. 2, fluorescent lighting. 3, poor nutrition. 4, sleep deprivation. 5, central authority figure. 6, ostracizing those with different beliefs. 7, a claim of truth, i.e. the cult's truth is the only truth. So whether it's a church, school, workplace, university or political party, they all use cult indoctrination techniques to some degree. So if you support what the cult has taught you and are not prepared to question it, then they have successfully destroyed your individuality and thus ability to question things for yourself, meaning that you are not you, but instead a manufactured member of a collectivist cult. This is not your fault. You did not deserve what happened to you, but know this: everything you do from this moment forth is your choice, your responsibility, and yours alone.
That's absolutely right. Well said. Now, just before we sign off, mate, I'm seeing a couple of really awesome points here. Number one, Masi Narimu, absolutely, let's do this, Aotearoa New Zealand. Let's kick the ball out of the park for this. And also want to pick up on the discussions around the Chinese community. Now, my heart goes out to the families of 2 Chinese community leaders last week that died in a very horrible car crash on the way to Wellington to provide the government with submissions on behalf of the Chinese New Zealander community as to why they are very, very afraid about CCP involvement in politics, and also sorry, just smelling smoke in this hotel that I'm in. I'm wondering where that's coming from. It smells like someone's having a cigar or something's on fire here, but anyway, I'll keep going. These 2 Chinese leaders were on their way to Wellington to provide the government with submissions about their concerns and fears for the interference that the CCP has in New Zealand, and also the CCP funding of the Labour and National parties. And they were extremely concerned, these people. I just found out this morning that these 2 gentlemen, I was meant to meet with them early next week in Wellington. They died on the way down to this meeting in Wellington. I'm not saying anything more about that part. But these men were representing the thousands and thousands and thousands of Chinese people that live in our country, that came here to escape socialism and communism in China, and they are desperately worried about what they're seeing here in New Zealand and our democracy being destroyed. They are deeply concerned to see all the signs that are telling them that the Chinese Communist Party are influencing our country, and they want to know that this government will take heed of their concerns and that they're going to be represented. Well, I just want to say to all of the Chinese community out there, and any community out there, but especially the Chinese community, because they are very afraid to get out there and vote for any type of party that's against the CCP or against the government. They feel fearful. I've had people reach out to me on behalf of the Chinese community, giving me the information from leaders that are saying that they're desperately concerned. I just want to tell you that you can place your vote securely in the Advanced New Zealand Public Party Alliance. We will get in there and disable the influence of the CCP in our country. We will protect you. You feel free in this country to place your vote where you believe it needs to go to protect your democracy here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. And as I keep saying, we are a people's movement, all people. This whole thing about, as I said earlier, about being a Māori separatist is just complete nonsense, and I talk about that very, very openly. And I'm very concerned for our Māori people. That's why I'm standing as a Māori for the Te Tai Tokido seat. I want to deliver outcomes that our people desperately so need in that part of New Zealand. But I want to make sure that results are happening right across New Zealand, so that people in Kāwhia have jobs, people in Greymouth have jobs, people in Westport have jobs, people on Stewart Island, Chatham's, everywhere, East Coast, West Coast, you name it. Our people need to be taken care of. And what's happening is that these parties believe that the only voters exist in the main cities, and that's not true. Provincial New Zealanders pay the same type of tax that we do in the city, and we will be taking care of them just like we want to take care of all the different communities in New Zealand that come to live here. But I just want to encourage any Chinese people that are watching this broadcast today, please let your people know that the Advanced New Zealand Public Party Alliance is a safe place to put your vote, because we will be taking care of your democracy here. You're part of our whānau.
That's right. Now, one last point before we go. People are talking about how their businesses have been shut down because of COVID. They've had their freedoms taken because of COVID. And I'd like to remind you all that no, COVID didn't do any of that. Your government's response did all of that. How many people have we lost to COVID? I would say 0, because everybody who has been seen to be killed by COVID actually was very, very elderly and had several underlying health conditions that were probably more likely to have caused their death than the quote-unquote virus. Not to mention a lot of the tests that we're giving out give about 80% false positives. So, ladies and gentlemen, just remember, COVID is not the threat. COVID didn't destroy your business. Your government did.
That's right. That's exactly right, and that's how I've adapted my message, is that the COVID-19 virus, yes, we know it exists, and it does, because I've seen the patents for it, and we know it's there. But that's not the issue. The lethality we know now has been completely debunked. We know that. We have Professor John Ioannidis. We have our own professors like Simon Thornley from Auckland University that have said this is a complete bag of nonsense. But what we need to focus on now is that the way that our democracy has been destroyed as a consequence of the virus, that's the issue, and it's the government that's doing that, and that's who we need to stand up against. And just a good comment here from John Lightfoot. Kia ora, John. Yes, jobs are the most important thing right now as well. One of the most important things, getting our productivity sectors and businesses functioning right and opening up, because what I was saying to Moana yesterday during the interview that I did with her is that I'm speaking to Māori tourism operators, just as I am to speaking to Pākehā operators and just all operators that I come across, like a Chinese family the other day where we stayed in their motel. These people are getting absolutely hammered. You get some that are being used as quarantine facilities that are able to keep going, but there are many, many, many hotels and motels across this country that are struggling, and that's as an outcome of the decision-making of this government. It's just horrific. And you're right, Vinny, it's not the virus doing it, it's our government, and our government basing their decisions on what we consider sound, independent, verifiable medical information, and we need to uncover why that is once we get in there. And what I do want to say is that I believe with all my heart that the idea of MMP, if functioning in the right way and the intent that it was designed to do, which is to give everybody a voice in Parliament, if that was done on a truly democratic basis, and we go in with 15 to 20% of the seats in the House, we will end up being the kingmaker, and we will end up being able to control the narratives in the areas of interest that we are concerned with. And if we cast our mind back to the last election, look at the devastation that Winston Peters did with only 7.3%. He's now polling well under 2%. We're getting a lot of NZPP voters coming to us now. Kia Mutu was full of them last night that are coming over to our movement and to our party. But if we can remember that Winston Peters did the terrible damage with 7.3%, what about the good that we can do with 10, 15, 20%? And I really, truly believe that if we don't win the government and we do get that amount, we will be able to be the backboned opposition and coalition partner to make sure that we keep our government honest, whoever it may be, including ourselves, if we're the main majority House, or if we're in a coalition partnership position, we'll make sure that our bag of demands, and they're not requests, they will be demands, are provided on behalf of the New Zealand people out there. So thanks for having me, you guys. I really appreciate that. I'm now getting reminded I've got another interview. We've actually gone 10 minutes over time there, Vinny. Thank you for that.
We have indeed. Well, we started late and we're about 4 minutes over time. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're leaving your party to come to NZPP, the Advanced New Zealand Public Party, which instead of saying Advanced New Zealand and the New Zealand Public Party, it's the Advanced New Zealand Public Party. All right. Tell your party, whether you're leaving outdoors, whether you're leaving Labour, whether you're leaving National or New Zealand First, tell your party that you're leaving and that you're coming to us, and tell them why. Freak them out, scare them, and watch as they all collapse like a house of cards. Billy, thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you, Vinny, and to everyone out there that do want to affect change. We are the best place to do that. To place your vote, to place your confidence, because we are truly a people's movement. Thank you all to the supporters out there. We need it. Please make sure that you go to our website nzpp.org and support us by way of donations, because we need to fund our campaigning now. But thank you all to everyone. God bless all.
I need donations too as well, Billy. So
you do.
Yeah. All right. So thank you very much for your time, and have a good day.
Thank you.
All right. That's Billy TK, ladies and gentlemen. NZPP.org.nz is the website if you do wish to support this show. Reason why I ask is because of this little baby over here. We'll see if we can get that screen. Here we go.
My mama loves us. Daddy loves us so much because he's just so cute. All right, that's enough. That's enough.
It's my baby. It's so cute. My little Alina. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. That's who I'm doing this all for. And as the Greeks say, your job in life is to plant a tree whose shade you shall never get to sit beneath. So if you do wish to support this broadcast, there are links in the description, and KiwiBank for NZPP and the Vinny Eastwood Show.com. And if you want to start up an automatic payment to support the work that I've been doing for over a decade, ladies and gentlemen, you join hundreds and hundreds of people around the world who have been supporting this show that long, and start up an automatic payment today. Now, with that being said, thank you very much for listening to the Vinny Eastwood Show. I'm not a credible journalist. I'm an incredible journalist.